Begin? Welcome. I'm Chef Charlie Schmidt, the longtime chef instructor at Philadelphia OIC. I want to welcome the students from the Philadelphia School District from the newly minted, I guess it's the first year, I believe, CHAMP program, which from what I've read has about 650 students throughout the city, all enrolled in I guess, a heavy culinary arts curriculum, along with straight up hospitality, to get ready for a very exciting career in the restaurant and hotel business in the city of Philadelphia. You're lucky because Philadelphia is one of the premier dining and entertainment towns in America, and we've had a great run over the past about 25 years or so of Philadelphia becoming so strong with James Beard Award-winning chefs, a fabulous convention center, and a whole bunch of other exciting things. Philadelphia OIC, I'm going to give you a real brief overview, is a training organization that was begun in the mid-'60s by the late, great Reverend Leon Sullivan. And basically what it was designed to do was to prepare people for the careers that were hot at any given time in the journey through America. I've been here 26 years teaching the culinary arts. My assistant, my sous chef, Tracy Borden, has been here about 13, 15 years now. She was a graduate of mine from years ago. And we are funded. The beauty of this program, for those of you guys and girls that are looking to take this career beyond your high school experience, is that our training is tuition free. You pay for your knives, you pay for your uniforms. The education is free. It's basically like a scholarship. And the way we operate is we are very, very heavy on technique, the type of things that all entry-level cooks need to possess to become successful in the business. So today we're going to do for you basically the ABCs of cooking, and that is knife skills. Knife skills is the first level of creativity, and having dexterity with the knife is very, very important. Knowing all the different knife cuts is very, very important. Being uniform in your cuts. So what I'm going to start with is the way I start my students every year, every cycle from the beginning of time almost, is with a potato. And we're going to go through a series of different cuts. So what I ultimately want to do with this potato is first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to square it off. And there's a certain way to hold a blade and to guide everything as you're working your cutting board. You really don't grab the handle so much. You kind of grab it at its throat, and yes, and you use these fingers back here as kind of a cradle for the knife. So what I want to do ultimately with this is I'm going to turn it into a julienne and a dice. So to get it there, and you'll notice those terms, some of those terms might be foreign to you because some of them are foreign. The French wrote the book on culinary arts, and as a result, if you're the writer of the material, you get to name this stuff. And we're going to start off by squaring this potato off, cutting off one side, roll it to the flat side, because you want to have safety also. Just roll into the flat side. So now I've cut off 4 sides on the potato. Now I'm going to take off the ends. Now what I'm going to do, now I have basically a rectangle. So I'm going to turn this rectangle into long rounds, if you will. And I want to be uniform in my cuts. So I'm going to do about a 1/4 inch slice straight on down. When your blade gets stuck like that, it's from the starch in the potato. Straight on down. Okay? So now I have 4 evenly sliced rounds off the potato. Now I'm going to take the rounds, and I'm going to turn each one into a julienne. Julienne. Julienne is basically means a matchstick in French. And there's different thicknesses to the matchstick. They kind of look like French fries. So we're gonna go like this. And I'm sticking to the 1/4 inch dimension. It's a whole rhythm to life skills. And like anything else, it just takes practice. Cooking is as much, and especially in the beginning, when you're learning it, is far more a craft than it is an art. You become artistic as you move down the line, but first you have to conquer the craft. Okay? And let me show you. These are what you might think of as French fries. We refer to them as julienne, 1/8 inch by 1/8 inch. And the length is determined by the length of the particular item that you're cutting, in this case, obviously the potato. Now I'm going to take my juliennes and I'm going to do a dice. And to do the dice, I'm going to just stick to the dimension of 1/4 inch. So I'm lining up 4 juliennes. It's a nice rhythm. In the beginning, when you're learning knife skills, the goal is not to go fast. The goal is to be uniform and develop that nice rhythm. And you see what it is. It's an up and down, rolling forward type of routine. You want to keep your body straight. You want to have your feet straight. You don't want to be leaning. You want your blade straight. Okay. And there we have that. So now what I've done is I've taken my whole potato, I squared it off, I cut 1/4 inch rounds, I cut 1/4 inch juliennes, and now I've cut 1/4 inch dice. Use these as the base for a hash brown, obviously something like this we always think of as Americans as French fries, but there's a myriad of ways to cook potatoes. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a rough chop. Rough chop's very simple. Generally we use it to apply it to herbs and leafy greens, but a rough chop is simply this. Just moving back and forth over your pile, occasionally clearing the blade. And watch the technique for clearing the blade. Both fingers or both sides of the blade, and simply draw it straight on down. And I'm not going to bore you with doing this for an extended period of time, but when you're doing it with leafy herbs like parsley or chervil, something along those lines, we break it down pretty small, because oftentimes when we use those leafy herbs, we use them as garnishes. Okay. So that's that. Now I'm going to show you another cut, and I'm going to take one of the sides that we removed, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to turn it into a bias cut. Now, simply bias cut simply means on an angle. And the way I cut something on an angle is I line up straight, and I line myself up straight, and then I turn the product. What this does for the cook or the chef that's planning to use this in a dish, because you're on an angle and you're cutting it in a certain fashion, it's going to be longer than what God originally made it. So at this point now, I'm just going to go like this. I'm going to do this super thin too. So you might think of these at the end of the day like those shoestring fries, or those old potatoes you used to buy in a can that were fried. And end up with something like this. Quick fry on top of a piece of grilled beef or grilled chicken. It's a nice little dish. It looks like a garnish, and simultaneously it's a delicious little add-on to the dish. So we've done about 5 or 6 items right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear my board. I'm going to wipe my knife down. I want to get that starch off. And I'm just going to clear right here. If I go off camera, I apologize. At this point, I'm going to bring in one of my students. He's going to be working right behind me. because I'm going to get ready to do the next cut, which is called the concasse. Concasse is a cut that's applied only to tomatoes, and it's defined as a skinless, seedless diced tomato. Getting the skins off a tomato is no easy task. That's why they have to be blanched, as we call it, which is putting into, for a very short period of time, putting a product into boiling water, simply for the skins to start separating from the product. Then we can peel them off very easily. So what I've done here is I put an X on the bottom of my tomato, not the stem end, but the bottom. On these two, and I'm going to show you here. That's how you do it. Very simple. And Avery, this is Avery Loudon. He is going to blanch those. Once he's done blanching is a process. It's basically a three-step process. Putting a product into boiling water to achieve either partial cooking it, in this case, simply to separate the skins from the fruit. Then once the product is cooked long enough, which only takes about 15, 20 seconds for this particular item, then we're going to throw it right into some cold water, because the goal is to stop the cooking at that point in time. Then after it's sat in the cold water and it's no longer warm, we remove it, we dry it, and we peel it, and Avery will let me know when that's ready, and I'll actually let him do the concasse tomatoes for you. This is parsley. Very common herb. I'm going to pick some of the leaves. The next cut I'm going to show you is called a chiffonade. Chiffonade. Chiffonade is a simple cut. It'll have a larger finished size to it than if I was rough chopping this particular herb. So it's going to go like this, get a little bit, that's fine. And I'm going to do it the textbook way. I'm going to line them up on top of each other. I'm going to get rid of that stem. I'm going to roll it. And I'm simply going to cut across. So it gives me like longer strips of the herb. Sometimes you'll do this on leafy greens, like salad greens, to use as a garnish or use as a base for putting on something else on top of. And this is what I have. It's very herbaceous. So that's chiffonade. I'll do it one more time for you. Again, a little pile. We'll twist it up. I'm just going to come across into thin strips. And that is your chiffonade cut. So Avery has removed the tomatoes from the boiling water. He's got them in the ice bath. I'm going to do one more item here, Avery, and then you can jump in and show the students the concasse. So I'll do the tricky one for you. This is everybody's most difficult product to work with in the kitchen, onions. And, you know, I've been doing this a long time, and I've had 1,000 students, and they all ask the same thing: what is the trick for how to work with onions and not cry? And then I've heard stories, I don't know, people put a container of cold water next to their board, or they rinse the onion first. And I have no idea if those techniques work, but I do know one thing: if chefs catch you doing things like that in the kitchen, they will pull you aside and explain to you that there is only one way to not cry when you're cutting up onions. Cut up enough onions and one day you will stop crying. It's very simple. I know it doesn't sound very fun or very pretty, but it is true. We never peel an onion in its whole form. I'm going to work off the stem end first. Cut off both ends. Now I'm going to just simply cut the onion in half. Now I'm going to peel it. And you'll see how much easier peeling is when you use this technique. This is simply Spanish onion, yellow skinned onion. This is the workhorse of the kitchen. Onions are used in a whole bunch of savory dishes. So if you ever looked at an onion, you'll see once you get it to this state that there has a series of lines that go in a certain direction. And that's going to, and it breaks up in a certain particular fashion. So I want to show you something. I'm going to take this half, and I'm going to do that julienne cut that we were talking about before. Julienne, again, simply defined as a matchstick. And to do that, very simple. My guide hand again, right here. Cutting nice and thin. Now I'm starting to wobble a little. When that happens, you go flat and you continue with the operation. And we end up with this. Beautiful, thin julienne onion. That's the easy one. Now I'm going to show you the hard one. So if I want to take this onion and turn it into a dice, to the unlearned eye would say, well, why don't we cut it into julienne, and then we'll simply sit there and rough chop it. Well, one of the tricks to becoming a really good cook is finesse. And people who know will always look at food that you prepared, food they get out of restaurants and whatnot, and always look at the uniformity of the work. So they can come up with, because it shows a certain precision, it shows a certain amount of care. And just if you see food that looks a little sloppy, we start off eating with our eyes, right? Because everything is a visual first. But it's not going to be a great starter, having sloppy looking food. So that's not how we would dice this. This is how we would dice it. So I'm looking at these lines again, guys, and they're going this direction. So I'm going to turn it. I'm going to just come on through. Okay. So basically all I do is I turned it this way and sliced halfway through. I did not come all the way to the end. I want that to stay together. And now I'm going to go turn it back and go with the lines. And again, I'm not going to go through the back, the base. And obviously this takes practice. And people are learning it. When they're learning it, they're crying and but it's very important you have to get through this. Now I'm going to turn it back the other way again, and now I'm going to come straight on down. And voila, I have diced onion. So, are we looking?
Ready, chef?
Okay. I am going to clear this board, and then I'm going to bring Avery up. Avery's an outstanding student. Makes us very proud here at OIC. We take a lot of pride and a lot of care in developing people's skills in any of the number of different disciplines that we teach here at Philadelphia OIC. And Avery excels in the classroom and he excels in the kitchen. He's got perfect attendance, so he's the one I chose to come up and do this. Why don't you come on up, Avery?
No problem, chef. Thank you for the great introduction.
You're welcome.
So today we're going to do confit, pretty much, which is skinless, seedless, small diced tomatoes.
Go ahead.
First step pretty much will be just to remove the skin from the tomatoes after they're boiled.
Yeah, so these little slits at the bottom is what allowed the skin to come loose after it was boiled.
Pretty much what we're gonna do is section them off in quarters. Gonna remove the seeds. Always, always, always very important. Trusty dusty spoon.
Be amazed how many things are done effectively with a spoon. I turn all my students into spoon guys and gals. For saucing, for moving food around, flipping food on a grill or on a griddle, and obviously removing seeds from tomatoes. The seeds have no nutritional value, they have no flavor, so they don't serve no purpose in our world. We just have to do one, bro.
And pretty much go from there, section them off one more. Slide it to the side, smaller dice. That right there, concassate.
Concassate tomato, excellent.
All righty.
Thank you, Avery.
No problem.
I want to show you, I'll do one more. So you saw what he did, right? Boiled them, we removed the skins, he cut them in quarters lengthwise. He scooped out the seeds. Then he took each one of these tomato fillets, for lack of a better word to put it, and he cut it into a julienne. And then he took his julienne and he diced it. Now I want to show you something. The skins that were removed. We do this with the skins from a lot of different fruits and vegetables. We do it with citrus fruit, we do it with tomato skins, and we take the skins and we simply dry them out. And we don't need any elaborate equipment for this. We lay them on a sheet pan, we let it sit for a couple days, the water dissipates, the skin gets dry and crunchy, and we put it in a coffee grinder. And we grind it up into a dust. I'm going to show you, we have all kinds of dusts here. This is the final tomato dust that comes from previous batches. And you see it's completely dried, light. Again, we use these things in a lot. We use them as garnishes. We use them in marinades. We use them in dry rubs on different foods before we cook it. So that's how we end up with those wonderful dusts, along with the concassate tomato. So now what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to move on to a couple more tasks. Clean my knife up a little bit. And I'm going to just flip my board at this point. So I'm not working with anything that, as far as dangerous foods go, for lack of a better way to put it, foods you have to be highly respectful of. You have to be highly respectful of high protein, high moisture foods, which is basically meats, poultry, and fish. They're the things that are the source of the vast majority of foodborne illnesses, whether they're directly affected themselves or whether they affect something else in the kitchen via cross-contamination. So we're working with all fruits and vegetables, nothing to be highly concerned with. So I simply flip to the other side. And now I'm going to show you, I'm going to show my board is sturdy. Matter of fact, I'm going to get a new board. Simply because that one was still wobbling. You always have a wet towel underneath your cutting board. That allows you to keep the board in place. This is a citrus fruit, obviously. It's an orange. More specifically, it's a blood orange. You can see the reddish hue on the outside. Blood oranges are, this is This is in the height of citrus season. And if you go to your local market, you'll see tons of lemons and limes and pomelos and oranges and grapefruits, different sizes, different names. Chefs will choose these things. This is highly seasonal, so we like to work with these when they are in season, the blood oranges. But we'll also choose them based on the sweetness quantity and the tartness quantity, and in this case, the color, which you'll see in a minute. Stem end, this is where it hangs from the tree. I'm gonna take that off. A little bit more. Go to the other side. Set this aside. So when you're working with citrus, and we use it for so many different things, citrus, the acid that comes from citrus. But what we want to get rid of is this white part, because the white is bitter. We use the skin on a regular basis to make zest and whatnot. And we'll show you something else we do cool with the skins off of this. But we got to get rid of this white. So you see the color of the flesh of the blood orange? I'm going to come around like this now, because I'm going to continue to remove the white. And notice what I'm doing. I'm using a sawing motion, and I'm following the contour of the fruit. Getting rid of that white. That white is called the pith, P-I-T-H, and again, it's bitter. You see how thick it is on this particular fruit. And I'm going to go through, I'm going to look and see where I left some behind. Very carefully. Remove that. And this is going to be kind of hard to see, but well, now actually it looks like it's showing up pretty good. You're familiar with this if you've ever eaten a whole orange or a whole grapefruit. But you see the lines, the white lines, well, they're also bitter. So what I want to do is I want to remove those. I can't remove those, but I can remove the fruit that's in between each one of these white lines. And I do that in the following way. I'm going to come here on an angle, inside the line, and I'm going to come down just a touch. Then I'm going to come on the other side, inside the other line, the next line, and I'm going to come on an angle. And there's my segment. Just going to keep on going around. This cut in the classic French kitchen is called a supreme cut. And not to be redundant, but we're getting rid of all the bitter. So then all we have is the ratio of sweet to sour that's in pretty much every citrus fruit. I'll hold these up for you. These are the supreme cuts. They're great in salads. I like to use them on crudo dishes. Crudo meaning raw fish dishes. And that's what they look like. They're also good. Save those. What we'll do a lot of times, not a lot of times, every time, we were just showing you the tomato dust. Do the same thing with these orange skins. I get my students to painstakingly go through, remove the white from the skin, and we take those, in this case, orange colored skin, and we dry them out just like the tomato skins. And we end up with an orange dust, which you're not here, obviously. And trust me, there's a lot of aroma coming from this. And we dry it, and we put it in the coffee grinder, and we make our dust. We try to, the happiest days you have in the kitchen, at least for me, is when we don't throw anything out. We did an exercise, which we always do, but an exercise just a couple weeks ago where we made chicken meatballs. Typical meatball flavoring profile, but I always use dark meat chicken. Not always, but more often than not, use dark meat chicken. And we take the chicken, we use thighs, because there's more flavor in the dark meat than the white. We remove the skins. We use our boning knife and remove the meat from the bones. We take the bones, in this case, we use those bones to make a chicken stock. We take the chicken, the flesh, the meat itself, we grind that, that becomes the base of the meatball. And we take those skins and we add some of the skins to the grind to bring extra fat to the meatballs, because you want fatty, you don't want super lean meat to make a meatball. It's going to make a tough meatball. And then the other leftover skins, we put them on a sheet pan, we put them in the oven with a little bit of olive oil, salt, pepper, espelette, which is a dried pepper ground out of Spain, and we make cracklings with them, which is always one of the things that's a highlight for me every cycle. I love cracklings. You've heard cracklings primarily with pork, but the skin off chicken, the skin off turkey, the skin off pork is really fabulous. And at the end of the day, the only thing that's in the trash from the chicken is the package that the chicken came in. So that's a big win in our world. I'm going to show you two more things, guys. Again, I'm going to wipe my knife down. I'm going to remove all this from my board. You got to work clean. You got to work organized. This is called, all these things are part of what's called your mise en place, which M-I-S-E, new word, E-N, new word, P-L-A-C-E. Mise en place in French simply means everything in its place. And any good cook will tell you, if he or she doesn't have everything in place, it's a whole lot more difficult to cook effectively without doing that first. Garlic cloves. They've already been peeled. You're all familiar with garlic, fresh garlic. And here's your stem end again. And I'm going to remove that. And a lot of times what we simply do with, depending on the preparation, also very important to specify that. But if I want something real quick and something that's going to slowly melt into another cooking exercise, I take the garlic and I simply crush it. Then I can rough chop it. And garlic's another one of those flavoring aromatic type vegetables that brings a lot of flavor to stuff, but doesn't necessarily always stand out as the dominant flavor. And there are many ways to cut the garlic. So take off the stem again. Now all I'm going to do is cut it in half so I can lay it flat. I'm just going to cut it super thin. Not everybody always likes to, they like the flavor of garlic, but they don't necessarily like to bite into the garlic, even when it's cooked. So when I'm doing certain dishes, I will have my guys and gals do it, slice it this way, so that the eater can see it on a plate and easily separate it if they choose. Excuse me. One more thing. Parsnip. It's a root vegetable. Has a great earthiness to it. As far as a taste-wise, it's very sweet. We like them fried. We like them roasted. We love to make purees out of them. And it's a winter vegetable. See, it's like a big carrot. We want to get rid of the skin. So with my peeler, now I'm going to show you a knife cut without using a knife. Remember, first rule of creativity, or the first lesson of creativity in the kitchen is knife skills, is cutting things in a different fashion. So we can take our peeler Simply cut long strips off the whole vegetable. I'll stop there, and this is what we end up with. They're nice and thin. They're great in the fry later. They fry up real quick. They come out, they're sweet, they're crunchy, a little bit of salt and pepper, and they're a wonderful wintertime vegetable that's underutilized. So I think, boy, we did a lot of different cuts. I hope that the timing and the tempo was fine, that you were able to actually pick up stuff from it other than just watch it happening. And what I'm going to do at this point is thank everybody that helped me at the OIC and my students. And I want to thank Joanne Martyr from Fringe Arts. And I wish all you guys, hopefully you decide to pursue culinary arts as a career. If you really like to cook, you could love this career, trust me. I've been doing this 30 some years. And at this point, I'm going to open the floor for some Q&A. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching.